Man, it is thundering and lightning like crazy here. Y'all probably gonna hear it on the microphone today. It is wild here. Like we've had some rough stuff here in Georgia. How about you guys?
Yeah, we just had a slight storm just come through about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
quick and fast.
Yep.
man, we've had tornado watches and warnings and all kind of stuff. My mom's been out without power since like 5 o'clock today,
Oh wow.
so it's been a few hours. So
Well,
I don't
nothing
know.
like what the Midwest is experiencing right now, though. Through Texas, Kansas, all that going through there.
Mm-hmm.
Those poor people, though. I mean, can you imagine? Like this is it's one thing here in South Carolina when we get like a tornado warning. It's another thing when you live in the Midwest and you see an F5 ripping through the horizon right in front of you. You're like going, please God, don't let it turn this way.
Right?
you know.
You think it has anything to do with the fact that there's a lot less trees in the Midwest and why they get so crazy big? Like, I mean, we've had some pretty destructive tornadoes around here, but like we haven't had anything compared to what I've
Yeah,
seen and heard about in the
it's
Midwest.
the weather patterns there in the
Mm-hmm.
Midwest. It's just the cold air coming in and meeting that warm air just makes for the perfect. That's why they call it tornado alley. It just makes for that perfect scenario every time.
Yeah. No, we used to live down Tornado Alley in a few places down there, and it's always fun when you go out, look out the window, and you get the tornado sirens. You're like, oh, and you watch it on TV. Yeah, okay, scary.
Just
In
go
real life,
outside.
you're like, huh, it's dark outside, and there's a tornado warning going off. You can't see anything. So if it,
Mm,
it could be right on top of you, or it could be 3 miles down the road, you have no idea.
mm.
Did y'all ever see that? Somebody posted a video of it and they said this would have been the best Chevy commercial ever. It was a
Oh, the one that
Chevrolet.
got flipped.
He got flipped, spun
Yeah.
around, and came back up on his wheels, and then
Hmm.
kept on going. I was like, all I could hear is "like a rock." I was like, that would be perfect Chevy commercial right there.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Mm,
Chevy and Timex takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
There
right?
you go.
Can you imagine? I bet that. You know what? I bet that seat needed to be cleaned after he got done.
Just a little bit. Just a little
Oh,
bit.
that was good stuff, man. Ah,
Well, what do you think about the guys who go out there and literally chase these things down? And I mean, they'll get so close. Like I've seen so many videos this year alone of you can hear the debris hitting the windshield. They're so close, just
Mm.
pelting the vehicle. I'm going, there is no way. Like I mean,
have you seen?
I've dreamed about being a storm chaser when I was younger, but the thought of being that close to one now, I'd be like, nah, man, I got
Oh
to
man,
go. I got to go.
it's exciting. I got a buddy of mine who does that. Like every time it gets bad out, like he goes and tries to chase me. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like
Yeah,
those people have vehicles built for that kind of stuff, and even
right.
those get destroyed sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they've got plexiglass or Lexan bulletproof glass in their vehicles, and it's very small windows and steel structures all the way around, and they'll even anchor into the ground.
Hmm.
I've seen that vehicle that's out there a long time ago. It's actually aerodynamic or air. I can't say words. It's shaped in a way.
When in doubt, change it up.
Yep.
This is change it up, man. This is like, but no, I've seen that vehicle. It almost looks like what's that stealth plane that we have?
The B1 or
The
B2.
B1 is something like the one that's very triangle shaped
Hmm.
Which one is this? Is it? It's the B2, right?
or something like that. Yeah,
One of them.
one
Is
of
the
them.
B1 the old one? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I used to know all that
Well,
stuff.
they have a vehicle out there that looks a lot like that. This shape similar to that, and they'll drop it all the way to the ground, and then they'll
Yeah,
put the spikes into the ground. They'll anchor it down
Hmm.
yeah,
so that
it
it
like
doesn't go
drills
flying away.
in.
Because they literally one time, I think they were trying to catch the inside of a tornado with it, and so and I haven't. This has been like part 20 years ago, but I don't know if that thing's still on the road or not. If it ever met its demise at some point, but I was like, there ain't no way. There is no way.
Well, if you're built like an airplane, you might end up being aerial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this thing it's got all the small awkward shapes so that the wind doesn't have the ability to really just like
Yeah.
pick it up, and when it sits down to the ground, like no air gets under it,
Right.
Right,
and it
exactly.
anchors in. So I mean, it's really cool, really cool. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's just scary when you watch some of those videos and it's an F5 and you can't appreciate how big it is until you see it going by and they'll say, oh, there's so and so's farmhouse.
Right.
And it's
yeah,
like
it's a speck.
this.
Yeah,
It's like a speck, and all of a sudden it's just like it wasn't even there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, not a
But
fan.
living on the East Coast, what we got to deal with? Hurricanes
Yep.
every year.
Well,
The big circles.
they create a bunch of tornadoes here. We've had
What
some,
the
yeah. That when we have those hurricane storms come in, they create a
yeah,
lot of tornadoes for us.
right off of the Gulf of America.
No, we by the Atlantic, man. No, we've had some pretty serious ones, actually, really close by. That's been pretty destructive. Matter of fact, there's a really cool video on YouTube about a golf course having like the roof getting, going away. Dude standing on the back porch, just drinking a beer, videoing it, right, and then all of a sudden,
Wow.
and that's like a couple of miles up the road from me. So it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So I don't play with that stuff, man.
No, man. Well, speaking of weather, you guys ever heard of chemtrails? Have you been living long enough?
Is that what they drag behind a slug or a
Yeah.
snail?
Oh, I've heard of them.
Chemtrail.
I've heard plenty about chemtrails.
Well, the
Those are
cat's
just
kind of out of the bag
condensation
now, guys.
trails.
So it's not necessarily a conspiracy theory any longer. It's
Yeah.
like now it's coming to light a little bit more. And what's a little funny about it is now you have states that are coming out who are wanting to actually present a bill for their state to ban the spraying of chemtrails above them. Wait a
Good,
minute. I
good,
thought this was all water vapor the whole time. What are you talking about?
right?
Yeah, and
But
what's interesting about that, like you were saying, Joe, is like right now in Florida, for instance, they're putting a bill forward to ban bioengineering and weather modification,
yep.
aka
Awesome.
chemtrails. But what's interesting is there's no such thing. So what are they banning? They're taking all this time and effort to write this bill, to put it before the Congress, to have it voted on for something that doesn't exist. It seems like we got to give it a little bit more credibility now for the people who've been blowing the whistle and saying, hey, we've seen some stuff. We pushed the button. We know what's going on here. And now that they're actually, fully releasing the story, it's, oh, well, truth be told, let's go back and revisit all these old videos.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't understand how, I don't know. What's it been? 20 years now, people have been made to just seem like they were absolute lunatics for having such a wild theory that how could a government just be okay with spraying chemicals on their people and da 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 da? That's not even possible. And who would organize such a thing? And da 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 da. And now they're just like, yeah, we've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
What you gonna do about it?
Yeah. I mean, I've got an article right here, guys, if you want to look
Really?
at it real quick.
Like, why do we not have? Why is whatever branch that's doing this? Why is this not shut completely down? Everyone in jail? Like, what's going on? Like, this is harmful to people.
Yeah.
So is a lot of other stuff that's released to the public.
Dude, if you were to go spray Roundup in your neighbor's yard without permission, you're going to jail.
Well, matter of fact,
If
there's
they
a
decide
huge
to press
lawsuit
charges.
against Roundup anyway.
I'm
Now
just saying,
it's causing cancer and everything else.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I'm just saying, if you wanted to go spray something on somebody else's property without permission, that's a criminal offense. Never mind the fact of it harming people, their health and whatever. That's just damaging property. Can you?
Look, Kyle, you know how to get past all that? Just tell them I'm spraying water vapor. It's
Oh,
just water vapor, Bo. Don't worry about it.
there you go.
You out there with your pump up sprayer.
Yeah, just making clouds, baby. Just making
That's it.
clouds. Hmm.
Hey guys, let me read this for you real quick.
All right.
All right, here we go. It says Tampa, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis expresses support for a bill banning what he called weather modification. nonsense before it hits the Senate floor on Thursday. The bill, labeled as SB 56, dubbed the one so-called chemtrails bill after its sponsor pointed to the conspiracy theory while defending the bill in committee, prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion by any means of a chemical compound, a substance, or an apparatus into the atmosphere within the borders of this state for the express purpose of affecting the temperature, weather, climate, or intensity of sunlight.
Hmm.
It says many of U.S. senators receive concerns, complaints on a regular basis regarding these condensation trails,
Yeah.
aka chemtrails. Bill sponsor Leanna, is that how you say that word?
We're gonna take your
Garcia.
word for it.
Yep.
Yeah. Garcia said in a committee hearing last month, there's a lot of skepticism. The bill would also require the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to set up a system allowing residents to report suspected geoengineering activities and directing the FDEP to investigate those claims. Don't worry about it. We're going to be right on it.
We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. There's nothing like when you self-check yourself. But anyway, DeSantis
Right.
said that while he supports the bill, it was gutted by the House lawmakers who made changes to their version on Wednesday, cutting down the bill from 10 pages to a single page.
Wow.
Nice.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Hopefully they kept the good stuff in there, but I think we know that that's not the case.
Yeah. We went from all the facts to let's just get it down to like.
Right. Well, and I remember researching. There's already a few states that have either passed it or already pushing this similar bill through already, and then there's potentially 31 states
Yep.
that are looking to join in and say, hey, we've also got our issues and complaints, and we want to keep our citizens of this state safe and good to go. Like not having to deal with extra stuff that why it's just air. Go outside and breathe, and you shouldn't have to deal with poison in your air.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think some of this. I know we actually had a few. We had a podcast a few episodes ago where we kind of discussed some of that fog or whatever that's been coming through. And yeah, I think there's something to that. I think it might have something to do with this stuff too. So, but hey.
Yeah, and then I think the craziest one, the most egregious one, was the one where there was the airport where the plane is like sitting in the terminal, still got the tube attached to it where the people walk in and out, and all of a sudden it's just fuming white smoke out the back of it. Just ongoing, didn't turn off. And they were like, so it's not because of atmospheric pressure or because of change of the temperature. It's literally sitting on the ground. That is 100% impossible by the definitions that were given to us.
Right.
Yeah. What's the old saying? Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing at all. It's just water vapor. Don't worry about it.
Just water vapor. That's all. Yeah.
It's a giant vape. It's okay.
Yeah, unbelievable. Well, and here's the thing: is I really feel like this is part of why we're seeing the intensity in the storms we're seeing coming through Texas and Kansas and all the Midwest, and the intensity of the storms, especially the last couple of years. The fact that parts of South Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, upper parts of South Carolina, never see that type of damage from hurricanes. North Carolina, God bless them, literally almost washed off the face of the map up there. Just seeing things you don't normally see. And I know people say, well, that's just, freaking nature. But,
But was it?
Yeah. Was it? Yeah. Well, you start seeing,
enough to ask the question.
Things that you don't normally see. And then you also have other things connecting to it. It's hard just to call it just a coincidence any longer. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think some of this stuff also plays into the whole idea of the smart cities thing that they're trying to bring about.
That's dumb.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But hey, that's another subject for another day, I guess.
That's for another Super Cannon Plus. Super Cannon Plus.
Oh boy, these guys. Well, when we're looking at the way the world's been going, and kind of makes you rub your chin if you have a beard, or if not, I don't know what you do. But slap your knee.
You still have a chin.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you look better when you actually have something there
Yeah,
to.
Hey, we're working on it, doing the best we can with what we got.
that's right.
But yeah, we've been looking at what's been going on in the markets and in the world the economy and stuff, and it's been a lot of really strange stuff that's been going on. And we see like the tariffs, and we see the market, all over the place. Lots of fluidity. We'll leave it there. And sometimes you have to go in behind and say, all right, there's a difference between conspiracy and there's something going on.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to see why now, and what does this all mean. So the best course of action is just to sometimes sit back and ask the question. You don't have to always have the answer, but you do have to ask the question.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of conspiracies. They just like to always throw that word theory in there that just tries to make you seem like you're a nut job for even questioning something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the whole principle of reciprocal tariffs, it's kind of fun to me personally. It's like, hey, you've been beating me up, I'm gonna beat you up a little bit back, but more in like a nice way. It's like, hey, I've been giving you $1 and I wanted an equal exchange for those goods. And it's like so often in our world, how often do you guys like just feel cheated? You're like, hey, you think about this. You used to buy your chocolate bar, you used to buy your Mike and Ike's, you fill in the blank of something you used to buy, and then now you go to buy that same thing and it's smaller, there's less stuff in there, and you're paying the same amount or more. Like I went the other day and bought
More.
some Mike and Ike's, and I was like, why does this box feel weird? Like something's different about this. I know they call it what, shrinkflation, but it's
I've
like
never heard that one before.
no,
Oh,
it's just stuff's different, and
Yep.
it's like it's part of the way the world's been going is, well, in America at least we're a debt nation. So when you're in debt, you have less, and so we're starting to see that play out a little bit of everybody's got a tiny home. More people are renting than buying houses. Everything's shrinking down because guess what? Your cash is also shrinking down. You work the same hours, you get money, but it's never enough to cover everything. And so it's just been a really weird world that we are in right now.
Oh, well, to me, it's just because, our government is full of actors, as all a politician is an actor. They pretend to be something on TV and then do something completely different,
mhm.
Um, and, I think that makes perfect sense. That's why we have movie theater prices for everything, not a huge portion and going to pay way too much
Oh
for it.
yeah,
That's why you got to sneak it in.
that's right. That's right.
Only the cool kids know.
That's right. That's right. By the way, there's nothing illegal about that. We were taught all our lives, you got to sneak your snacks in. They don't care. You can just walk in. They're not going
Well,
to tell you can't.
this is what I was told as a child or a young person was you can bring in your own candy, but it has to be in the same type of box
Mm-hmm.
so that they sell at the concession stand. That's what I'm saying. That's what I heard. So if you notice, or maybe you haven't, but like at the Rite Aids or the CVS or whatever, you can actually go in there and buy movie theater candy in the boxes, or you can go to Walmart
Hmm.
and do it as well. Well, you can literally buy it in the boxes as long as it's in the boxes and not in the little bags or whatever it comes in. At least that's what I was told here in South Carolina. Oh yeah, you can bring in your own candy, but it has to look just like what we sell or something like that. I was like,
Mm.
I
maybe
don't
that
know
was a
about
lie. Maybe they're just trying to discourage us from doing that. But
Well,
I remember everyone during the wintertime wearing like the big jackets, packing in popcorn and drinks, and you hear it in the middle of the movie here.
Yep. Baby, bring your big purse,
Yeah, the big purse now.
you brought the diaper bag?
See some mom over there with a 2 liter like pouring into a cup for the kids.
Why do you have a car seat with you, sir? You don't even have a child with you. Like, what's
But yeah, Joe, you're talking about stuff we were told as a kid. Like it kind of. So I went down this rabbit trail one time of all these things we were told as a kid that were wrong or bad or illegal, and come to find out none of it was true. Like, do you remember whenever you were a kid and you try to turn the light on in the car and you're like, no, you have to turn the lights off or the cops will pull you over?
Hmm.
What rule is that? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Is not
Not
one?
Oh
one.
yeah,
No.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, how many things did we grow up thinking if we do this, we'll never recover it?
Oh, here's the best one: pulling the tag off of the mattress.
Oh, yeah, or the
Or
pillows, yeah.
oh, you're thinking that they're literally the men in black are going to show up at your house and they're going to walk in there and take you away from your parents.
That is a
I
federal
remember being a
offense.
kid getting scared to death, like, don't ever pull that off.
That's right.
Don't ever take that tag off. You'll be gone forever. What are you doing?
That's
Really?
funny.
So up until I was like a young adult, I was like, every time I'd see it, it'd give me like this panic attack, looking at it like, oh my God, it's already halfway torn off. And what's going to happen now? I'm like, stop being dumb. I had to have that inner talk with myself. Stop being dumb, man. What's wrong with
Yeah.
you?
Speaking of inner, what's the other one we were told? If you swallow gum, it's going to be stuck in your stomach forever.
Like for 25 years or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe that's the reason for all the weight gain in America. Everybody was swallowing gum and couldn't get rid of it.
This is just gum.
It's just gum, baby.
Gum, bro.
It's Bubblicious, the zebra, that's Orbit.
Man, I got plenty of juicy fruit in here. Plenty of juicy fruit.
No double mint.
Well, I mean, you got to eat the whole packet of juicy fruit because the flavor's gone in like 15 seconds.
I was gonna say less than that. Like five chews into it, it's like, oh,
it's like the best chewing gum.
Oh,
but the flavor's gone in 5 seconds. How can you have that many chemicals
that was
in your
marketing
gum?
genius because they know you're gonna spit that one out, put another one right back in there, and it's like
that's a good point.
Yeah, maybe so. I just don't understand how you can have that many chemicals and the flavor not last any longer.
They had to put extra chemicals to make the chemicals not work as good.
That's probably what it was. See, we're on to you, big chewing gum.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
won't
man.
Get us no more.
Well, speaking of dumb and conspiracies, so man, we're finding out some things that to me is pretty hilarious. So, obviously that I know y'all have heard all the conspiracies surrounding all the stuff that the Vatican has hidden beneath there, and all that stuff, right?
Oh,
who knows the untold treasures?
Yeah. Oh, do tell.
Yeah. Well, the new thing that's coming out is supposedly there wasn't any big conspiracy to hide a bunch of stuff. It's just a bunch of people over the years had no idea what they were finding, and they'd lock it away and never look at it again. They had no clue what they have down there. And that's why every once in a while when they go through something, they'll go, hey, look at this. Just because, not because they were intentionally hiding it, supposedly, but because they're playing the dumb card.
Right.
They're playing the dumb card now.
That's
that sounds plausible to me. I don't know what the problem is.
Well, that's one approach. You're like, well, we're gonna have disclosure eventually, so let's do a soft disclosure. Let's slowly release it and be like, we're gonna plead the fifth on everything,
right.
And then, hey, listen, those guys were old and we're new, and there wasn't internet, so they just put stuff in boxes and bins, and it was so important that we hid it and boxed it, but we didn't know what it was. Because everything else we didn't know what it was. We threw it in the lake, but this we kept, but we don't know why.
That's about as dumb as NASA saying we can't go back to the moon because we lost all the technology to go there. we lost it all. I don't know what to tell you. All the everything that we'd ever learned, we just we lost it all.
Yeah, that aluminum foil wrap had a difference.
And all those film that you took and everything else. We don't. I mean, I remember watching the video. The guy go, "We don't know what happened to it."
No.
All those extra reels and footages of the moon and the landing, we don't know where they went.
You said reels, or it was real?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, first of all, it wasn't real for the real, but I thought that's like the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life was, the reason why we haven't been back is because we lost that technology.
Yeah. One of the greatest accomplishments of mankind ever. And you just lost it.
Considering there wasn't a whole lot to it to begin with, I don't know what would be too hard. You can't rub two brain cells together and reenact this thing again. I don't know, man.
Yeah, here's what you do. You split all the departments up, rebuild what you just built. No, we don't need the whole plan. You just rebuild the legs, you rebuild the top, you rebuild the engine. We'll figure the rest out. It's Legos. Just pieces go together with screws and bolts. We got this. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Well, they had to get rid of all the the outtakes and the director's cut and all.
Oh,
They had
yeah.
to get.
Stuff falling on the
Whatever do you
set.
mean?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I know. I know. Not, even the Museum of Natural History and like all the big museums, they're involved in all this stuff too. They have a narrative to push. You know,
Yep.
it's all the same. They're all lumped in together. You know, they have these they have an agenda, and it's to, in my
Oh,
opinion,
yeah.
it's to hide God, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I can personally. Let me rephrase that, because I don't personally have this story, but the individuals who were involved um, have given this account that I trust to be true, very much so, especially with all of my dealings with fossils and all this other stuff. But they've had they've taken they've taken TV crews and the museum and all this stuff out to sites where there were, you know, dinosaur footprints solidified in the ground with human footprints impressed in the dinosaur footprints. And they will turn and face this way where it's just dinosaur prints, and no human footprints, and film that section and just avoid the section that has the human footprints altogether. And then mysteriously the human footprint sections just disappear.
Everybody's got amnesia after that. What do you mean? Oh, that was never there.
Right?
Guess I missed that.
Yeah. What's this $50,000 check deposit into your account? Don't worry about it.
Oh,
It's kind of like the golden cap. It just appeared. I don't know what to tell you, man. It was there.
it's in the fossil community. It's really sad that the fossil community, the people who find and collect fossils and do cool stuff with them, it's really a shame because more people can't see what's out there, because you've got two options. You either play into their narrative and you give everything to the museums because somehow it's their property. Don't know how that happens, but they will come and steal your finds from you, take your land from you if it's on your land. They will come and steal your finds. And yeah, and if it fits their narrative, they'll use it. If it doesn't fit their narrative, they will pretend it never existed.
Oh yeah, everybody's got amnesia at that point. I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, I know that firsthand.
Speaking of fossils, Kyle, what about all the giant people that they've found over the years? All the news articles and everything documenting this, and it says guess who shows up there every time? Good old Smithsonian.
Yep.
And then I saw the video on this one. They go to the Smithsonian, like the main place. This guy opens the door just enough to poke his head out. And they go, "Hey, we'd like to come in and look at the bones you got here of the Nephilim or the giant people." And he goes, "I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing like that ever here." And shuts the door.
Right.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
It blows my mind, man. I know personally where an entire mammoth skeleton is, but I can't speak about it to anyone. I can't go get it. It's just gonna be there because I know exactly what's gonna happen. If I reveal that information, it's gonna get shut down by the state, and that's all there is to it. You're never gonna be able to be in that area again. And I enjoy that area because I find a lot of other cool stuff in that area. So,
well, Kyle, the Men in Black will be visiting you very soon.
I forgot where it was.
That's it, man.
Where what was?
I know. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah. The Smithsonian. So there's a museum where they have. No, it is always interesting though, especially when we get into like the worldwide stuff. We have a lot of things that are in America, and it's almost like a disservice. I feel like because I've traveled abroad a few times, and when you see stuff overseas, it's like super magnified and awesome. Like, oh, there's Egypt. There's I lived in Italy. There's all this Italian stuff and all this ancient history. When it comes to America, we're always like, still feel like we're missing stuff. But then when they start actually going and looking and checking, like Kyle was saying, you got all these amazing caves that you're like, where do these caves come from? Like, I didn't know we even had this stuff. We don't even really promote it. We got the burial mounds, the serpent mounds.
Yep.
We've got all the Native American stuff. We've got the dinosaur bones and tracks. And there's like just stuff all over the USA.
We've actually got our own what's it called? The Stonehenge?
Mm-hmm.
Like something that's very similar to Stonehenge. I think it's in Maine or somewhere up in the upper part of the United States. But yeah, we've got our own Stonehenge, and no one never talks about it at all.
Right. Just kind of makes you wonder. Like, I know we're a new country by historical standards, but it's just like, oh, Egypt. Oh, there's so much cool stuff. They have this. They have that. Like, dude, we got the pyramids just down across the border. You know what I mean? We got pyramids in our own country.
Right.
And we're just like, but the one's over there, but everything's over there, and it just makes you kind of wonder, like, I wonder how much stuff our country still, I mean, how much of it's still unexplored. There's still areas like I don't know if you've ever flown over the United States, but there's more areas of nothing than there is areas of something.
Right. Yeah.
We're not overpopulated. There's not so many people we can't find somewhere to live. There's so much unpopulated areas. There's no way we've even seen everything in our own country, much less foreign countries, much less the ocean, much less the list goes on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just in our recent, just since the United States has been a nation, there's so much hidden historical information out there.
Mm-hmm.
It is unreal, the stuff that is still to be found regarding the stuff that happened during the Civil War.
Right.
Man, we find crazy stuff. Civil War artifacts all over Georgia and South Carolina. Cool stuff, but there's just a lot of it hidden or taken away from the people who find it.
Well, and we did the awesome thing of tearing down statues and removing history because of an agenda. I don't want to go into it, but it's like we're getting rid of our own history. That's where things get dangerous. Is they say that history goes to the victors, but it's also revisionist. If you can go in there and change what people know, if you can go in there and change what the story is, then you change the mentality of the people. And I think that's what's been really weird for me is how much stuff we're just getting rid of. Like, why would you just get rid of it? We know, especially now in the age of the internet, like I'll just go Google the statue you just took down. There's a picture of it, like I don't really understand the purpose behind a few of the things that, we're doing in our own country, much less, around the world.
Yeah. All right. So I got a question.
Yes.
Now, there's the obvious stories, right? The Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and all that kind of good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Those are the popular ones.
Yeah.
And I think there's a tribe in Africa that I know Kent Hovind had talked about one time that there was they claimed that there's a living dinosaur around them. That Mokili Mbembe, I believe, is what his name was. What the tribe calls the dinosaur. Yeah.
Good job for attempting it.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
I think that is the name, Mokili Mbembe. So we're gonna go with that. It didn't have any of those, no clicks or anything. Yeah. But anyway, so my question is, what do you guys think as far as potential for these massive beasts somehow still surviving in any way, shape, form, or fashion today? Okay, let's use a biblical example. What about Behemoth?
Where would that be? Like, so if I'm correct, I know there was two big giant animal things listed in the Bible. So Behemoth was the land one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, so like kind of like a giant cow or something, or a giant something hairy four-legged animal thing.
Well, the way that a lot of people try to explain it is they try to explain it like it was like an elephant or a big rhinoceros or something like that.
Or hippo or something like
Hippo,
that.
yeah. But the way the Bible describes Behemoth, it has a tail like a cedar. Like referencing like the same type of cedars of Lebanon type thing, like giant, massive trees. And this thing has a tail like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it's described in the Bible, I mean, it sounds a lot like what we would call, I don't know, almost like a brachiosaurus or, a brontosaurus or something, one of those massive animals with huge long tails. Now, I know
Mm-hmm.
that those are just images of something that was created in somebody's mind, but
Right.
that's kind of the general idea. Like this thing had a massive tail on it.
Wow.
So is it
And,
still alive? If so, where could it be? I don't know. What you guys think?
well, they have the theory with like, the hollow earth, and I'm not going that direction, but when we talk about China, they had a whole pyramid underground, like an
Yep.
entire like normal sized pyramid, but like under the surface. So there's room for giant stuff under where we walk.
Mm-hmm.
Across America, allegedly, there's tunnels that can get you almost anywhere underground in America.
Yeah.
Just massive tunnels where you can drive 18 wheelers in. So even in our own, they're man-made, in America, but there's stuff that's happening like that. So I mean, how much stuff can you hide? If you can drive a 18 wheeler this direction and this direction, and one-way traffic, and they can all fit underground with no problem, you can fit some stuff underground. And
Yeah.
if you can fit a giant pyramid, so that's an option. I think that we maybe explore is, well, yeah, you could satellite image all you want, but if it's underground, you're not going to find it.
Hmm.
Does anybody know? Maybe we should look it up. How much of Africa is actually unexplored? I think it's a pretty good bit of Africa, they say, is still left unexplored. And and for those who don't know, Africa is gigantic. You could
Right.
fit probably about 5 United States in there, I think. And so, Kyle, to answer your question, I think absolutely. I think there could be still what they would call giant lizards
Mm-hmm.
on the land, and could very well be hidden somewhere, out of sight, out of mind, and you know,
Well, was Behemoth a clean animal or an unclean animal? I know that in the last days, the people are gonna consume Leviathan.
Mhm.
So that leads me to believe that Leviathan is a clean animal, right?
Right.
Um, I don't know. I'll put it like this: if Behemoth is some version of a cow and it's got a tail like that,
That's steak for days.
steak for eternity. What you talking about? That is talk about long horns. There you go. That's
Right.
that's
there you go.
that's the
Yep.
one right there. I
So
mean,
And
I
then,
don't know.
it
like the
almost it
movie
almost
Jaws. The movie Jaws, when they see Jaws for the first time, he goes, "We're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah,
yeah.
When you see Behemoth, you'll be like, "We need a bigger smoker." Bigger smoker, man.
exactly.
It almost seems like, in like a funny sci-fi way, this is like the origin story of Godzilla versus King Kong. You've got your sea dwelling animal and your land dwelling animal, and these are the two giant ones that eventually go blow to blow. Now, according to scriptures and different biblical writings, that's not the case, but it almost seems like that's the origin of those stories. Like that's the beginning of, hey, there's some two larger than life things, and well, what else are we gonna do in the movie but make them fight each other? Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think about all the stuff that Yeah, I know there's massive amounts of land in Africa, but I mean, there's massive amounts of land like everywhere.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
don't forget Antarctica,
uh, let's not forget there. That's right. This is a
a
big
whole
creature.
chunk of unexplored area.
I mean, it could stay
Well,
warm. Why not? Right.
Right.
But I don't know. I think about areas like a huge portion of South America is just jungle covered
Right.
up.
yeah,
It's not that it's necessarily quote unquote unexplored. It's just that it's covered up.
Hmm.
yeah.
It gets enveloped by the jungle.
Only
So
thing they were able to find was guns and a couple roses.
interesting. Welcome.
To that jungle.
We'll leave the light on for you.
Yeah.
Nice connection there. I don't know. I think I think Behemoth and Leviathan are for sure still around. As far as all the other ones, I don't know, man. I struggle with that, and they claim that supposedly there's the potential for like Megalodon, for example.
Mm.
You know, because so much of the ocean is unexplored. I mean, we've at least supposedly. I don't think that they're showing all of the Earth on the map, on the maps that we have, but supposedly, you know, we've got everything mapped out. But the claim that is made is that there's been more of space explored than there is of the ocean. You know, and that's a big, big place, and it's deep too. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. I think there's a possibility that we could probably potentially have some megalodon still hanging around somewhere, but
Well, I mean, think about this, Kyle. Every time something does come from the deep and all of a sudden surfaces back up, I mean, over the years, many years, some kind of weird creature will float to the top and they'll go,
yeah,
"Oh, we thought that was extinct millions
yep.
of years ago, and here it is."
Oh, that happens like almost weekly.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're like, "Oh, well, you know, we thought this was gone and prehistoric, and here it is, like, you know, on the shores of a beach somewhere." So it's like, yeah,
Right.
you
Well,
never know what's gonna be coming up out of the deep sometimes. Now, let me just tell you, I really hope to God that there is no megalodons in the deep anywhere, because if
Right.
they're anywhere near the size that we're told they are, you definitely will not go back in the water
No.
ever. Especially this big boy right here will never go back in the water ever.
Yeah, no, when we're talking about like the ocean, you know, it's I kind of go back and look at all of human history. You know, when we go back up until just recently, how far have we been able to go in the water? As far as we can swim down and breathe, you know, like a couple 100 feet maybe max. And if you're like breaking the world record, and then eventually you get an oxygen tank and you still can't go that much further than that. A boat can go across the top of the water, but it's only been like, you know, in the last 100, I don't know how many years, but since we've even had submarines that can go under the water for any amount of time, and even then they're limited on how far they can go down, you know, hence the last time they tried to go explore the bottom of the ocean, and those guys didn't make it back to the top. And so, you know, like almost all of human history, we've explored the beach and like the surrounding, you know, coral reefs and stuff like that. We have never, who's been out to the middle of the Pacific Ocean and went down to the bottom of that thing? You know what I mean? Like on average, no one
Yeah.
ever, up until
Yeah.
a little bit recently, maybe. And even then, who's got time to go look for that stuff? So it just kind of blows my mind to think of like how vast our Earth actually is, how much we don't know. And yeah, Joe, I've seen the videos where this giant squid and octopus comes up to the top of the surface. They're like, yeah, we thought these were like normally 10, 12 feet. This thing is like 200 feet. Like, what in the world where could this have even lived? What does it eat? To be that big, you got to eat a lot of food. So then now, what is the size of the prey
Mhm.
for that thing to be that big? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You have to
Well,
ask one question, then a second question. All of a sudden, you're like, wait. There's a whole nother ecosystem down there we don't know about.
yeah,
That's
well, they
right.
said that they've found whales with scars on the side of it from what they believe to be giant octopus,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
or they've tried to. You know how big a whale is, so yeah,
Now, a whale is a big creature, and we know that they eat one of they're supposedly the biggest creatures in the ocean, right? Like, what is it, the blue whale?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And they eat one of the smallest creatures in the ocean,
Right.
krill, right? So, but they just eat a lot of them. So yeah, there's a whole nother system down there
Mm-hmm.
that we're not aware of. I mean, there's lakes and rivers under the ocean.
yep,
That blows my mind. That we can't penetrate, but for some reason eels and fish can, and it's just weird, man. It's just weird.
yeah.
But
Kind
I,
of makes
I
you think about that firmament. How
Mm-hmm.
hmm
yeah, just a little bit.
I don't know.
God's like, yep, this is where you're stopping right here.
We've seen great whites, um, and also whales that have their carcasses that have massive chunks out of them. So there's some big stuff out there. I don't know if they're megalodon big or not, but
Could it be Leviathan?
no, because I personally think Leviathan is much bigger than what we believe megalodon to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Much bigger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, just to give you an idea. So couple of things for anybody that's a scuba diver that was just listening to Jonathan. Let me clear this up because I know you're going to be stuck on this until it
Yeah, I
gets
know.
clarified.
Thank you, because I was going to say something, but Kyle, I'd rather you do it.
You sure you don't want to go?
I am no scuba expert or about how far you can dive.
All right, we don't breathe oxygen. We breathe air, or it's also called gas, because it's that's what it is. It's just a mixture of the
Well,
natural
then my
air.
family needs to quit complaining then when I'm sharing gas with them so they can breathe.
It's kind of help them breathe. That's right.
This is the air I breathe.
So the way they have the way they gauge how big they think Megalodon and other creatures. Megalodon is just the one that got popular. There's a
Mhm,
lot of other names or whatever, but kind of like the dinosaurs. Everybody knows T-Rex and Brontosaurus, but beyond and maybe Stegosaurus, but until we had Jurassic Park come out, most
Oh
people had
yeah.
no clue any of the other, supposed dinosaurs out there. Well, the way you can kind of gauge a shark's size, and now this is gonna take on a big assumption here, and the assumption is that the scale then is the same scale now.
mhm.
So if you
Well, real
find
quick, then versus now. What's the then versus now? What's
all
in
right,
between?
so if you were to catch a shark today
Mhm.
and yank out a tooth, what you're going how you can gauge how big the shark was is if you take a measurement. A shark tooth's kind of shaped like a triangle, right? Okay, you got the root up here at the top, and
Right,
then
right.
it kind of points down, right? Okay. So if you measure from the tip of the point to the highest point on the root of the tooth, up one side, whichever the longest side is, measure from the tip of the tooth to the tip of the root. And whatever that distance is, for every inch of tooth, it represents 10 foot of shark.
Hmm.
So if you caught a 10-foot shark today and ripped its tooth out, you're going to have a 1-inch tooth. That's a very, very small tooth for a 10-foot shark. A 20-foot great white would have a 2-inch tooth, right? And this one's kind of in that category. That's what this one is right here. Not quite that. Not quite 20-footer. But when you take a megalodon tooth, there's one that's pretty much complete, which is that big. And this one's
Crunch.
from a shark that they call an Angustidon, and that's one of the biggest Angustidons I've ever seen. So I'm very fortunate to have found that one. This is another megalodon tooth, but this one's broken off. But this would have been a much bigger tooth than the one that I'm holding here, right?
Mhm.
So to kind of give you an idea, there has never been that we're aware of a 7-inch tooth found, but we found some that got really, really close, like 6 3/4 and maybe just a little over that. So if you think about that, if you find a 6.5-inch tooth, if you do the math, and if the math applies to those creatures the way that they do to modern sharks, every inch of tooth represents 10 foot of shark.
Hmm.
It'd be a 65-foot shark. That's 2 school buses, bro. That's 2 school buses.
No, thank you, bro.
Right. Is that where Jonah ended up?
Maybe. I got something else that's pretty cool right here. So this is a
It wasn't his yellow submarine.
piece of a whale vertebrae. So we find all kind of cool stuff. And I clean them up. These things are like loaded with barnacles and all kind of stuff when I get them, and I got to let them sit outside in the yard for like a couple of months because there's all kind of little
Can
microscopic creatures in there that
you
stick.
hold on to those for me, Kyle?
Can I what?
Can you hold on to those vertebrae for me?
You might need
I might
one.
need some of those as I get older. I see we show up to the back daughter. Hey, can you do something with this?
Yeah, we'll get this new surgery called a bacchiotomy.
Yeah, bacchiotomy. Yeah. All right, I got one more cool little thing I'll show you, and then because this is show and tell time for me. I love this. Like I get into this stuff big time. All right, check this out. Any ideas what this is?
Petrified lemon wedge.
Okay.
Toenails before clipping.
Oh boy.
Okay. All
Oh
right.
boy.
So, now this thing is, to give you an idea, I mean, it's a little over 2 inches in length, right?
Hmm.
Um, if you had to name a human body part, what would that look like to you?
Ear.
Ear, right? And that's where this comes from. So, the human ear has 3 tiny, 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 tiny little bones in the inner ear that helps you hear, right?
Hmm.
Well, a whale has the same thing. This is one of those tiny, what we have is microscopic in our inner ear. This is in a whale. They
Hmm.
have them too. That's one of the, a whale ear bone is what that is. How cool is that?
That's very
That's
cool.
yeah.
So anyway, we find all kind of cool stuff down there, man. And I wish we could bring up more of the stuff because uh, some of it's illegal to have in your possession.
Hmm.
Like if I were to pull up that mammoth skeleton, like it's got ivory tusks that are massive, and they're just down there deteriorating, going to nothing. So it's wild, man. But there's some really cool stuff down there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I think there's so much unexplored, and I know pressure's different down there. I just think that there's a possibility that we could maybe have some megalodon or something still left over. I don't
Hmm.
think that they can survive at surface level because of the pressure difference, you know. But I think there's a good likelihood that there's something still down there, personally.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about surviving. Kind of. What do you think? What do you think happened? Like, how did all these? I mean, because you found, as you said, I don't know, but you said you found the mammoth, and we found dinosaur bones or giant bones, or we found all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Where'd they go? How'd they all just go away?
Well, a little clarification on that. A lot of people think that what they see in museums is how they're found in the ground.
Hmm.
Um, unless something has changed, like in the very, very recent future or recent past, excuse
History.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There has never been a complete dinosaur
Yep.
found.
Right.
That's facts.
It, it's bits and pieces here and there, and they've just kind of pieced things together, which
And
kind
most
of
of it's
makes
just cast fillings. Most of it's not even the actual bones.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they fill in the space of where they speculate a bone should go a lot of
Hmm.
times. And so because of that, like you really can't trust, these images that were shown with Brontosaurus and Tyrannosaurus Rex and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, for goodness sakes, there's thought now that, what people think of as a T-Rex could have been a bird,
Hmm.
you know?
Or like a winged dragon type of thing, like a bat almost. Those style kind of wings.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine if T-Rex was just a chicken?
I like to see the eggs that thing lays.
Hey, look, there's people that think that chickens came from dinosaurs, but they think in the evolution terms like a bird was born from a lizard, and that's just not
Yeah,
no.
that's not how it works
Right.
Now,
at
uh,
all.
to answer your question though, I think the term dinosaur didn't come around until the 1800s. First of all,
Right.
before then they were called dragons
Hmm.
or and terrible lizard became dinosaur. So yeah, there has been creatures out there like that of some kind, some shape, form, or fashion, big stuff. And a lizard will grow to its environment, generally speaking.
Hmm.
So as long as it can live, and it grows as long as it is alive. So it's going to grow the entire length of its lifespan. Well, I personally believe, to answer your question, what happened to them? I personally believe that we had a flood about 4,400 years ago, roughly, and it wiped them out. I
Hmm.
don't think they made it to the ark. And I think that maybe we had some changes that happened on the earth at that time, and atmospheric pressure, oxygen content, that sort of stuff changed, and because of that, those creatures aren't able to survive in the environment that we have today. And therefore they are either non-existent or they are just much, much smaller versions of what they used to
Yeah.
be.
I was going to say that, Kyle. I said, if anything did make it back off the ark, we have history. And see, here's the thing. Everyone thinks, oh, you read about the Knight's Tale and how they go out and they slay the dragon for the princess and all that stuff. A lot of times there's underlying truth to these stories. It's not just a made up story where they're like, what can be, oh yeah, we'll just throw in a mystical dragon. No, these large lizards actually were real. There's a lot of history that says that the knights went out and they fought against these lizards and killed them. And so I think, Jonathan, to answer your question, we could have been just, dumb humans and going out there and what was left of this really cool race of a lizard or whatever it was. We go out there and like we do, like men do, go out there and just kill it,
Yeah.
for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And in the
They might have
backup,
tasted good. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, to back up what you're saying, Kyle, I mean, with the and again through science, proper science, pre-flood, yeah, we were the amount of oxygen in the air was a lot there was a lot more oxygen rich, and
Yeah.
the air was a lot denser, and things grew bigger, they grew
Yep.
better, greener, taller, faster, whatever you want to say. And yeah, you couldn't take if these things are for real, you couldn't take what was pre-flood and put them in post-flood now where we are now. There's not enough atmospheric pressure to put air into their lungs for some of these giant lizards or giant creatures for them to even breathe. So yeah,
Yeah.
what happens? We just get smaller. So and my other theory on it real quick is let's say T-Rex is real. So if T-Rex is real, if the Velociraptors are real, all these things that they saying are birds or where birds come from, yeah. Here's my theory on that was, one of the reasons why the earth was judged is because things were being DNA was being messed with big time before the
Oh
flood.
yeah.
And so when I think about because people ask, well, what about the T-Rex? Did they go on the ark with Noah? No, because I would never see if T-Rex is a real creature. I would never see that as something the Heavenly Father would make and it have running around us. That's that in itself, if it does come from the bird family, would be a freak of nature. One, it's something that would be not very natural whatsoever.
Well, we also
And
assumed that it was a meat eater.
right, exactly, right,
There's lots of skulls and skeletons out there with some crazy teeth on them for creatures that don't eat meat.
right.
You know.
So
So
I think, my thought is the maybe some of the weird things that they found, and T Rex seems to be the most popular. I mean, the entire existence of Jurassic Park is all encompassing around that T Rex in every movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whether
yeah.
he's the main top A predator or not, he's always in every movie.
Oh yeah.
So there's something to be said about that. But I think that there was some stuff that was made. The guy was like, "Yeah, you're not getting on the ark because you're not something I made. You were something that was engineered, and you're gonna have to go."
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were
So,
told that they sinned against that the fallen angels sinned against man and all the beasts of the earth, right?
mm-hmm.
Yep,
Hmm.
some weird stuff going on, boy.
So you're saying all God needed to do was send down the dinosaurs some inhalers, and they could just take a couple puffs and they'd be all right.
Absolutely.
But I think that what you guys are talking about, it's right. Yeah, can they even reach their mouth with those arms?
Can
But
you help me?
you spray me, I spray you. But what's interesting though is like when we look at the whole idea of pre-flood and post-flood. Well, let's take humans for an example. Before the flood, people are living 900, 600, 500 years.
There you go.
Something was different. We can say what we want. Oh, there was less sin and blah blah blah. Whatever. We can make up a lot of stuff. There's no clear answer. But before the flood, people were living a long time. After the
Hmm.
flood, 150, 175 was like, whoa, you cracked 100? Man, that's crazy. And then in our world today, 100 seems like a myth. That's a unicorn. You
Yeah.
get one every once in a while. So, there definitely was a difference between pre-flood and post-flood at the human level. So what would be any different on the animal kingdom? Maybe you used to
Mm.
have these larger than life beasts And yeah, post flood, it's like that's just not going to work. It's not going to cut it. So if the air changes, the water changes, if we did go through a Pangea land splitting up scenario, well, then now your climates change, your foods change. If everything was centrally located and warm and tropical and nice and, food's abundant, water's abundant, and everything's great, to now, hey, we're all split up. And, hey, man, I'm out here in Australia. I can't live out here. I need some shade. I'm dead, and I think that's part of the story is just there was so much change at the flood that the world just changed, and it changed in a massive way. And when we talk about rebellion or going against God's ways, you guys are like, oh yeah, sinning against the animals and the birds and the beast. Okay, that might be going against his ways. And when he comes down to judge that stuff, it's like, dude, we don't win that battle. We don't get to go battle against God,
Yeah.
and so whatever the result of the flood was in result to sin and bad on the earth. And the scary part is look at the change from pre-flood to post-flood. And then now we have that same kind of sentiment coming up of God's like, hey, there's a day when I'm going to return and there's going to be tribulation. How things are going to be different from pre-tribulation to after the tribulation, after the judgment. The last time it changed the world as we know it, probably is going to happen again and change the world as we know it.
Mm.
I got
It definitely will.
You want to hear something crazy too? You want to hear something crazy, don't you? I know Kyle does. Jonathan, you want something crazy?
No idea.
Gnarls Barkley.
All right, here's another one of Joe's conspiracy theories. Okay,
Dun, dun, dun.
It's in my personal opinion that Noah and everybody else pre-flood, what we would consider giants today. I think that the human being, if everything else was growing to larger proportions, there's nothing that would tell me that the humans who lived pre-flood were not also at least 12 footers, my opinion. Because they've got, I know one time I looked at, they had a dragonfly that they found that was fossilized and it had a 5-foot wingspan. And I learned something new that day when I was reading an article or a video, whatever it was I was watching. And it said that, and I didn't know this at the time, but I knew then now, is that dragonflies breathe through their wings. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And they said that a dragonfly, similar to what you were saying, Kyle, earlier about how a lizard or a snake, we know that snakes, especially snakes, pythons, those type of snakes, the Florida Everglades, warm environment, that when they find a snake that's old, they're like 20 footers.
They big.
They've been around. They're big. I mean, they're like the size of a coffee can, man. Like just just big. Well, same thing with the dragonfly. A dragonfly apparently will grow to the atmospheric pressure that it's subject to because it breathes through its wings. So when they find this fossilized dragonfly with a 5-foot wingspan, that right there tells you that there was a high amount of oxygen and the atmospheric pressure was that. So if everything's growing bigger, why not people? And here's my other theory.
Well, real quick, imagine the sound of that dragonfly.
You
can hear the little ones flying by, the little wings flapping. Imagine a 5-foot. It would sound like a helicopter flying past.
Okay. Here's one better. What do we know that dragonflies eat?
Oh, that's where I was about to go.
Oh no, I can see it in your eyeballs. Go ahead.
Yeah, they eat mosquitoes.
Mojitos.
Can you imagine? And like they eat like their body weight daily in mosquitoes. Can you imagine the size of mosquitoes, bro?
Yeah, showing up with like a McDonald's straw for a nose.
Probably almost as big as they are in Georgia.
Oh my gosh! Hey man, we got them right here too.
They sound like Black Hawk helicopters when they fly by your ear.
But so my other theory on this is, since people grew bigger pre-flood, and then post-flood, we have what we call the resurgence of the giants or the Nephilim is what we call them. What if the genetics of some of those people were just the leftover genetics of those that were pre-flood, and were just dispositioned, or I don't know, is that right the word? Predispositioned to be very large people.
I mean, I guess there's some possibility to that. I don't know. I kind of lean on the Nimrod side of things. He began to be a mighty man, and that can be interpreted like, he just started becoming popular among people. But I don't know. We have one of Noah's sons finding documents that he wasn't supposed to, or
Right.
finding instructions that he wasn't supposed to be messing with.
Right.
And we got Nimrod doing all the crazy stuff he was doing.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that there was some manipulation going on. Let's just say chemically. I don't know, like root cutting type stuff. Like they were introducing stuff that shouldn't have been there to get the results that they wanted. I think that's kind of how some additional giants were produced. That's my opinion. I
Mm.
don't know.
Yeah, I was just curious because
I don't have video evidence or anything.
what did all right here let's just throw the whole thing out there. So if it does this is what Super Canon Plus is, right, guys? So I believe we did have gigantic trees
Oh yeah.
that were cut down.
Hmm.
So, and I believe that right after the flood, what we're seeing is the oxygen levels are coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down. Because what we see is the life expectancy started coming down, down. I mean, Abraham lives to be 175 years old,
Mm.
which is still in today's time. That's great.
Yep.
But it wasn't, you think about this, it wasn't that far before Abraham that people were living to be 600, 900 years old. It wasn't
Yeah.
that far back. So that tells me something, like you said, Jonathan, something drastically changed with the continents, shifting everywhere, and the way that the weather system changed, and it wasn't living in the best of places in it because you got such extremes.
Mhm.
No matter where you go, you can have from one end to the other. So now I forgot where I was going with it. But anyway, so you got the trees that are cut down, less oxygen. It just made me think about that. I was like, so what if some of that genes did carry over? What if it's not? Because some people think another incursion took place. They'll say, oh well, apparently there was another incursion with the angels with women, and that's why we have these people of extraordinary size. But because the atmospheric pressure is different, they can't grow as big as they used to because then they wouldn't be able to breathe.
Right.
And it just made me wonder, though, and I agree with you, and I'm on that line too. So I'm on the fence with that, Kyle. With we know that there was some stuff going on post flood that some information that was being put out there that's not good information at all.
Hmm.
But it's made me wonder if somewhere within there was some genetics that were left over where people were growing, still able to grow that tall or that big or whatever. I don't know. I know it's all over the place, but it just makes me think and wonder about all that stuff.
Yeah, and so much of it is just product of environment. If you have an area that can sustain that much life, then yeah, you uh generally you can kind of get away with it. But if you're in an area where let's say we all currently live in an area where there's nothing but squirrels. Hey, you know what? You're either going to hunt them till they're gone, or you're going to not live very long. That's not enough sustenance for humans. You're going to need vegetables and other stuff. And so I think when you look at those giants of the world, especially back then, you got to eat double, triple the amount of an average person who's got the time to feed you. You're eventually going to be a dying breed. Your
Yeah.
lifestyle, your ability to live is not sustainable. And I know that was part of the problem pre-flood, where they were like, "Hey, these guys were eating of the land." You fill in the
Hmm.
blank of what they were eating. You know what I mean? Any and everything. If you could go down their throat, they were eating it, and that's too much. And in our
Yeah.
world today, I think everybody's kind of leveled out. We're all kind of the same now.
I think a lot of it goes back to uh, God's people were told over and over again not to drink blood.
Mm.
And what were these giants doing? They were cannibalizing people. I
Hey.
I, I think there's something more to that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know.
think about it, Kyle. I just said it earlier. There's always something in the stories. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Hmm.
You gotta say "mun" for it to rhyme.
Yeah.
Man.
So there's something about the old nursery rhymes too, because he's talking about grinding this dude up, making bread out of him. But it was something about
Hmm.
why would he say, I smell the blood?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a giant. I
Hmm.
smell the blood of an Englishman. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother. But I was just, again, there's so much that's been written. I think it's just put out there as fantasy or put out there as nursery rhymes or put out there as just, whatever, mythology. And when we go back and you start studying, I'm like, maybe there was something that made them right about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that made it a little bit more real than what we realized. So,
You know,
yeah.
are people really that creative, or are they just writing down versions of what they actually saw?
Right.
You know, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Mm.
I think someone put, I don't know what I was watching, but I think someone put it best this way. In the next 100, 500 years, if we're here that long, no one's really going to know who Yoda from Star Wars is. He truly is made up character from Star Wars, but you look at how old mythology is. You know, from all the Greek gods and all the things, and they've always stayed with us. Matter of fact, we see them all the time in one form or another in society today. So if
Mm-hmm.
this was something that somebody just made up, or just, you would think, oh, it would just kind of go away. But no, they're all that stuff's here to stay. But
Well, there is that about Yoda.
I know, I was just thinking about that too. So he is part of a
Uh-huh.
deity.
That's an
Yeah.
entity that
But
was
if
copied.
you know
Mhm.
about the deity, yes, but the actual character of Yoda, if you don't
Right.
know, then it's like, eh.
How
Yeah.
about Jar Jar Binks? There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jar Jar Binks, we've already forgotten about, brother. So you don't bring it up.
Oh man, the awesome accent all throughout the movie
Oh
that you had to
man.
listen to forever.
Oh my God.
I know people got really mad about Jar Jar, but I thought Jar Jar was cool, man.
Listen. I don't know if you ever heard the fan theory on that, but if they would have made Jar Jar into a Sith Lord, because that's what they were talking about. He actually was a Sith Lord in disguise. If he would have, I'm gonna tell you right now, it would have redeemed all of those chapters in the Star Wars trilogy. If they would have turned around and had Jar Jar Binks show up and all of a sudden go dark, they'd be like, "What?" But yeah,
All I
yeah,
know
yeah.
is he's one of the best characters in Lego Star Wars. He jumps really high.
Oh,
Well, Kyle, that was a hot take you just had there, Kyle. I think a few people might disagree with you on the Jar Jar.
yeah, I know. I don't know. I thought he was fun. It's like he's just so goofy, you know. I liked him.
Well, if I heard Misa, if I
Yeah.
heard that one more time in that movie, I was like, you're gonna have to go away.
that did get a little annoying. Not gonna lie. Yeah,
but mute
yeah,
yeah.
subtitles.
right.
Well, could you imagine trying to read that in subtitles?
Is that soup? Is that Misa soup?
Right.